I've been a financial advisor now for over 20 years, and I'm incredibly lucky. 90% of the time, I love my job. It's very fulfilling. It's very rewarding. But you know what? 10% of the time, my job is really difficult. And those difficult moments come when I'm dealing with a client that is looking back at their 50s or 60s and saying, you know, I wish I had done something different. They're dealing with regret. They wish they could turn back the clock and do something different, but they can't. And I don't want to see you have those regrets when you're in your 70s and in your 80s looking back. So today I'm going to share with you some of what those regrets are and how I think we should adjust our lives in our 50s and 60s to enjoy the journey more and to minimize the chance that we're going to have those regrets. Okay, the first one is I want you to quit saying yes when you mean no, and I want you to quit saying no when you mean yes. Okay, so what the heck do I mean by that? You know, many of us are very responsible people. We like helping out other folks. And sometimes we say yes too often. Somebody requests our help, getting an event going, or just whatever it might be to volunteer for something. There's a shortage of people. Nobody volunteered for it. Well, you know what? If nobody volunteered for it, you probably don't want to do it either, right? But a lot of my clients just have a heart where they would say yes. And you know, as we get older, we've kind of paid our dues and we have less time in front of us. And it's time for somebody else in the queue to step up and say yes when they mean no. But for you, I want you to quit doing that. So there's a book called Hell Yes or No by Derek Sivers. And I want you to live by that philosophy. If it's not a hell yes, if you're not excited about doing it, you know what? Say no to it. Now, what do I mean by the second part of that, which is not only quit saying yes when you mean no, but the second part of that was quit saying no when you mean yes. And that's to adventures. That's just saying no to adventures. That's just saying next year. That's just saying this isn't a good time for me to do it. Let's do it another time. When a friend of yours calls up and says, hey, let's go out on a camping trip, or somebody says, hey, let's go on a cycling trip. Let's see if we could ride our bicycles across the United States. I have a friend that's my age that just did that last summer. I'm like, good for you. And, you know, he posted every day on the internet how he was doing it. He wasn't sure and I wasn't sure he was going to make it. But you know what? He did make it. So when adventures come up, you know, how many more times are you going to get a phone call from a girlfriend or a boyfriend and say, hey, let's go do this, you know, let's go to Europe and let's visit 5 countries in 2 weeks. And I found this cheap airfare. Let's go and go do this trip, or let's go camping. And when those opportunities come up, I really want you to think about saying, yes, I would like to do that. Let's do it. As opposed to saying, well, you know, I have this work event taking place, or, you know, some other minor obligation that you can get out of. So I want you to quit saying yes when you mean no. And I want you to quit saying no when you mean yes. Okay, what's another thing I want you to quit doing? Yeah, this one's going to be controversial if you're still working. And that is, I want you to quit these crunch periods. You know, we're heads down. We've got a lot of pressure on us. We're trying to get something done. And we're like, okay, I'm working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, but it's just going to be for a short period of time. It's just a crunch mode. You know what? Those are harder and harder to recover from. I just went through one of those recently myself. And that's why it's on my radar screen. It's like, I have to quit doing these. I'm not 30 years old anymore. I'm not 40 years old. It takes too much out of me. And I want you to think about, you know, what's the toll that's taking on your health, both physically and mentally? You know, when we work that hard, when we don't get enough sleep, you know, maybe we're sacrificing. We'll say, well, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger has a saying, you know, we all get the same number of hours in the day. And a reporter asked him, well, you know, how do you squeeze in your 8 or 9 hours of sleep every night? And Arnold's like, yeah, it's important to get 8 or 9 hours of sleep. You just need to sleep faster. Oh, sorry about that terrible imitation of Arnold. I am a big fan of his, you know. That guy, nothing's beyond his reach, and I want all of us to be that way, right? Where we think we can do everything. When I first heard he was running for governor of California, which, you know, if California was an economy, it would be one of the top 10 economies in the world. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know, an actor, a weightlifter, and now apparently he's going to be the governor of California. And, you know, son of a gun, he did it. So I want you to have that hopefulness that Arnold has, but I don't want you to have his work ethic. I don't want you to sleep faster. I actually want you to get 8 or 9 hours of sleep. And I want you to think very carefully about how many of these crunch periods you're willing to do going forward, because they do take a big toll. Okay, next one's a little silly, but if you're like me and you tend to be a little frugal, my parents taught me this is how you order something at a restaurant. You start at the lowest price range and you go up until you find something that you like. You know, why would you pay $20 for a meal when there's something that's on the menu for $15? If you're doing that, I want you to quit doing that. I call that ordering from the low end of the menu. I think it's okay to order from the healthiest thing. What's the healthiest thing on the menu? And keep going until you find something that you like, right? So kale salad with pine nuts, that might be somebody's thing, but it's probably not going to be my thing. So I'm going to skip on that. But a tofu curry dish, okay, that sounds pretty healthy. So I want you to start either on the healthiest thing or just order the yummiest thing on the menu. You know what? You've worked hard your whole life. I want you to start enjoying your money. Too many of us are sacrificing unnecessarily. So how do you avoid this sacrificing unnecessarily? I think one of the keys is you have to have a financial plan. You have to know, what's my goal? What am I trying to achieve? And how do I get there? And, you know, as long as you're on plan, then enjoy your money. Don't sacrifice unnecessarily, because that's going to lead to regret later on. The majority of us, if you're watching videos like this, you're probably at least $500,000. You're looking at a retirement with at least $500,000. For many people watching this video, you're looking at a retirement closer to $1 million or more. And for a lot of folks in that situation, right, I mentioned earlier, I've been a financial advisor for over 20 years. I've done a lot of these financial plans. And while we as financial advisors want our clients to have, a 97% likelihood of never running out of money, what that means is you have so much money that in only 3% of the cases, out of 100 cases, there's only 3. Out of 1,000 cases, there's only 30. Out of 10,000 cases, there's only 300 simulations where somebody would run out of money, right? So let's just do the 100 because it's easier to visualize. In 3 out of 100 cases, somebody's going to run out of money, and we're trying to protect you from that. So that's what the 97% likelihood of never running out of money is. But guess what? There's 200 simulations of your investment results where you have a ton of money. So you have 7 times, 10 times the likelihood of dying probably with millions of dollars of unspent money. And that's energy, that's effort that you put in, that's sacrificing, that's ordering from the bottom of the menu that you're doing. And I don't want you to do that, because I think it's sad when people look and say, when they're in their mid to late 80s and saying, you know what, we could have spent so much more money. We could have flown business class or first class to Europe. We could have done that 3rd or 4th trip a year. So I don't want that to happen to you. Okay, let's keep going. And this is the one that I want you to promise me. This is a promise that everybody on this video can keep. And I want you to promise me you'll do this. And that is, as I record this, it's 2024, whatever year this is that you're watching it, I want you to promise me you will use all your vacation this year. Over half of Americans don't use all their vacation. So promise me you'll use all your vacation, and you're going to squeeze all the juice out of life. You're going to take advantage of that vacation. Hopefully you go somewhere fun. Hopefully you have some adventure. But even if all you do is you sit at home and you recharge your batteries, that is time well spent. You have your vacation for a reason. I want you to use it. I can tell you in Europe, if you don't use your vacation, your boss is going to come talk to you and say, you need to use your vacation. It's here for a reason. We don't do that in the U.S. I wish we did. And unfortunately, the demands of our job is such that half of all people don't use all their vacation. Don't let that be you. And related to that, I want to make sure if you've worked hard, if you have enough money to retire, that you actually give yourself the gift of retiring. You actually receive that. And that's what this video here is about. 5 reasons to retire as soon as you can. I'll see you in there. Bye-bye.